Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to another one of our 75th Sydney Hobart press conferences. It's a 2019 Rolex Sydney Hobart yacht race, and this morning we have a panel of people who are contenders to win the race overall for the Tattersall Cup. So closest to me is Carl Crawford. He is the owner, skipper, navigator of Sail Exchange. Next to him, Matt Allen, the 2017 winner with his yacht Ichiban. Next to him, Ed Saltis, and Ed has done, I think it's 37 or 39 Sydney Hobarts, and he won that very difficult 1998 race. And next to Ed is Craig Neal, the new co-owner of Quest with Bob Steele. Quest has won the race twice, once as Quest and once as Balance, and in 2017 on corrected time finished only 10 minutes behind Ichiban. So these are all people who know what they're doing, obviously. So Carl and Matt have also something in common in the fact that Carl's father Max and Matt sailed together on a yacht called Challenge owned by Lou Abrams. And so we might start with Carl today, because Carl's had he's kept his crew physically fit, but this year they've worked on the mental aspect of the race. So can you tell us a bit about your plans with that, Carl?
Yeah, thanks, Di. We have the yacht in very good shape, and we've got everyone's physically fit, but one of the things we worked on during the year was some mental strategy and some mental strengthening with Dr. Elizabeth King from Macquarie University. And it's called the Potential Project. It's been incredibly interesting working together with a 3-month course on includes meditation and mental homework. And we've found through the Blue Water series, we've found the communications better and being more mindful and having great communications and working together. So that's been a very interesting project for us.
Thanks. Matt, Hobart number 30. Would you like to make it a second win with Ichiban?
Well, of course, I think everyone goes into this race to attempt to win overall in the race. And I think with the weather forecast, it's going to be a really interesting race. You know, there's going to be quite a few transition zones that are really going to put the pressure on, you know, the tactician and the navigators and the watch captains in this race to get through those transition zones. So I think the boats that are all round are going to have probably an advantage off from the boats that are, probably in one corner, whether they're either good upwind or good downwind. You're going to need to be good all-round boat to win this race, and it's really wide open, I think, with the weather. It's going to be a great challenge out there.
So given the forecast and the challenge, would you say that the toughest competition for you guys is going to come from within the TP52s and maybe the Canting Cooks and 50s?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think when you're sailing a TP52, the challenge in this race is you've got to beat every other boat around your size, and there's around about 14 really good boats around our size, maybe even a little bit more. So you've actually got to beat all those boats, and then you need to be a little bit lucky to actually win the overall race. And I think with this weather forecast, it's probably going to favour boats around about that mid-size of the fleet, but the weather conditions really are pretty uncertain. So that's why I would say it's a lot more open than just the sort of 50-footers, give or take a little bit. So it's going to be fascinating to see who actually gets up there, and there's a lot of boats with a chance.
Thank you. Now, Ed, you're one of those mad people. The older you get, the smaller the boat gets.
Yeah.
And you're no novice to unusual conditions. You won in 98, and given this forecast, which is very different to then, and your small boat, what are your expectations this time around?
Oh, look, it's a very good fleet that we're up against. We've been doing some great racing in Hobart. I'm based in Hobart now and had some results there, and that's a good fleet, but this is a much, much larger fleet of really good quality boats. So we're keeping our feet on the ground, hoping to be competitive in our division, which, as Matt says, is what it's all about. You have to beat the boats your size, and if you do that, then the rest is lap of the gods in terms of the weather. But we'll hopefully. This boat loves upwind sailing, so while we don't like upwind sailing that much, the boat itself loves upwind sailing, so a bit of that'll be good. We're not bad running, reaching is our weakness, so we'll have to manage that. But she's not a bad all-round little boat, so we'll see how we go.
So knowing you, you will have eyed off the competition within your size range. Who have you got on your radar?
Oh, look, I can't go past Philosopher. It's the same, similar boat to us. They're based in Tas, and we did the Maria Island race against them. We were never more than 10 boat lengths apart for the whole race. It took about 30 hours and literally 10 boat lengths apart the whole time. So a fantastic, really well-sailed boat, and we were lucky enough to beat them that time, but they really pushed us hard. So certainly Philosopher. There's some other smaller boats that are well sailed that rate lower than us, so we need to be on our toes. It's not about just beating guys in front, but we've got to beat the guys who are coming up behind us as well. So it'll be very competitive.
And the forecast, what do you make of the forecast?
Yeah, look, it's moving a lot, so it's hard to really put your foot on it at this stage. But I think it could favour the medium-sized boats, potentially TP52s, yes, but also if the breeze comes in late in the piece, and it's a long way away now, if the breeze comes in late in the piece from the northeast, northwest, then some of the smaller boats could come home. And I'm one of those smaller boats. But look, it's just moving so quickly now, it's pretty hard to know.
Yeah. So Craig, you had the smarts to buy into a very good boat in Quest.
I did.
Won the race twice, come very close, gives Matt a hard time on a regular basis. So what are your thoughts on the race and being on Quest for the first time for the Rolex Sydney Hobart?
Yeah, look, I'm delighted to be on board Quest. Unfortunately, this year my partner in the boat, Bob Steele, injured himself in the Newcastle Bass race and has 3 broken ribs, so he's not racing, which is a real shame. We're going to miss him a lot on board. But the rest of the crew's come together very, very well. We actually won the last race, which was great. I think we're the only boat to beat Ichiban this year, which is and that's only been once. So
I know someone else got him in the Gold Coast race.
That's true.
His
Sorry,
old boat.
That's right.
My old
I
boat.
forgot about that one.
That's right. Ouch.
Just thought I'd share that.
So no, we're feeling good. We're feeling confident. The crew's coming together. We've spent some time and money on the boat this spring season preparing for the race. We feel the boat's quick. It's an older TP, but it still seems to keep good pace with these newer models. I think there is a race amongst the TPs, but then there's obviously there's 160 odd other boats to beat as well. So it's not going to be easy. Forecast, I think, too early to call. It is looking very shifty. It is going to, as Matt said, it's going to be racing in all conditions, I think, to win.
So you don't have to tell us what it is, but have you done anything special to try and pin Ichiban and get the better of it?
We've had some changes. The boat is really well prepared by our team. We've made some sail changes this year, which I think will hopefully make a difference. We've changed manufacturers. We've done a lot of rig work and this sort of thing. So hopefully we'll be a bit quicker.
You've got that slave driver, Mike Green, running the boat, and that would make a big difference to you guys, because like Ed, he's one of those sort of tough breed of offshore. So that will make a bit of a difference, won't it, having him
Absolutely.
there?
Well, Mike Green is lining up for his 41st race this year, which is quite amazing. So he's has the most experience on board, without a doubt. He's had a great success rate. And he's brought this boat home twice for a win. So he's got a good record. So we're looking forward to having him on board.
Okay. So just coming back to you, Carl, you're one of the 5 father-sons in this race that have done 25 plus Sydney Hobarts.
Yep.
What do you think the turn? You've come close a few times, not quite got there. What do you think the 2019 Rolex Sydney Hobart's going to bring for you?
Well, I've been pretty fortunate to do quite a few of these races, and luckily I've won 4 as a navigator, and I want to win one more to match a very good friend of mine whose name was Stan Darling, who's no longer with us. So that's one thing that's always in the back of my mind. So I always want to compete well, and I look forward to trying to win a 5th one. And the other thing that's interesting to me is my father did 30, and my son Ben is 13, and in 5 years hopefully he'll be coming with us as well, so we'll have all 3 generations doing the race, which would be a first, I think.
Well, it'll be fantastic. Yeah, I think it will be a first. I can't think of any others that might do that. So I'm going to open the floor to any questions.
For Ed, how hard was it for you, and how did it feel now that you're based in Hobart, doing the race in reverse to get up?
It's been really funny. We actually had a hard delivery up. The old nor'easter blew hard as we came up the coast, as it normally does. So we're bashing into it. Good workout for the boat. So it was good in a way because we've had a truckload of just hard sailing on the boat. Half the Hobart crew was there coming home. I've got 8 on the cruise, 4 are old hard heads like me based in Sydney and 4 fantastic crew from Hobart who were really have just added so much to the boat. They're really good sailors down there. Even the bad guys are good sailors in Hobart, I found.
You've got to be a good sailor if you sail in Hobart, right?
Yeah, but look, the other thing I've noticed down there, and there's been a few old crusty blokes down in Hobart giving me their advice on weather, it's been blowing hard west-south-west for the last month now in Hobart, like literally every single day it's hard westerly, so I don't know if it's going to change, but this old bloke said, mark my words, this year there'll be a very hard west-south-wester down the coast of Tassie, so I hope he's wrong, but anyway.
Yay. Any other questions? Michael?
Craig, why did you want to buy into this boat?
Oh, I think it's a great boat. I think it's got good heritage, and it was also an opportunity to team up with Bob Steele, which was an honour. We were racing 40-foot boats against each other the last 3 years, and it's actually quite a nice story. I was pushing my old boat off the dock here at the CYC, and I walked into the clubhouse, and here was Bob sitting down having a cup of coffee, and he called me in, and 24 hours later we actually had purchased Quest, and that was the end of it. So the money was in the bank account for about 6 hours, I think. Yes.
I've actually got a boat out around the corner there. You have a coffee after?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. One's enough.
Matt, 30th, what, this year?
Yep.
75th of the race. I'm looking for a massive angle to this story. Are you going to announce your retirement at the end of this?
Not anytime soon. I did my first race in 1980, so I've had a few years off along the way to do some other things in my life, but no, this is it's a real passion and it's a love. And what else do you do on Boxing Day? It's just a great spectacle. It's a great event. It's an open field. Lots of people can win the race, and we might be short odds favourite, but really that means not much. Once you're on the racetrack, it's really open, and with this weather, probably more open than in most years. So, no, not anytime soon.
Is this the true race within the race?
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's an incredible race, within the TPs.
Because they've all got really good now, haven't they?
Yeah, well, the standard and the quality is just going up and up and up, and a lot of the boats rate virtually the same. There's a couple of boats rate a little bit lower, 1 or 2 a fraction higher, and then there's other boats that are quite similar in there, like Hollywood Boulevard and others. So, there's an enormous amount of competition within that range, and some people are going to try and match race, us. That they often do that. But it's really hard to do that in a Hobart race. You can do that in a shorter race, but in the Hobart race, boats get further apart, and if they match race us and they rate the same, then that's a real problem for them. So it's just going to be on out there. That's for sure.
Steve?
For anybody really on the panel, with all the boats and the technology, regardless of the size, from the smallest to the supermaxes, obviously faster, more aerodynamic, etc., etc. Is it getting physically harder on your bodies to control the boats?
I would say on a TP52, it's getting a lot harder than it has been in previous, editions of design, evolution. I mean, if you sit at the back of the boat, it's like being on a bucking bronco. It is physically really hard to hang on. The boats go over the wave. The boats are pretty flat. The boats are incredibly stiff. So if you're at the back of the boat, you're essentially getting a bit of whiplash on every single wave. And I don't know how many waves you go over between Sydney and Hobart, but it's approximately a lot, right? So, it's really, really hard, depending where you are on the boat. And obviously you're getting a lot of water over the top of you if you're going downhill. And some of that is solid water.
So I was going to say it won't be a picnic on your boat either, will it, Ed?
Well, if it won't be, but my boat's relatively comfortable these days. I'm getting older, so while it's a smaller boat, it's not quite as extreme as boats I used to own. But just to Matt's point, my son Ben is on Guaylo, one of the very good 52-footers. Ben did his first 2 Hobarts with me when I owned a Kerr 40 called Midnight Rambler, and that boat was a pretty extreme boat for a 40-footer. And I always thought we were pushing the edge, but Ben tells me these days, he's 24 years old now, he says, Dad, that was like a luxury cruise compared to these 52-footers. That is so brutal, up on deck and down below. He says that they wear wet weather gear as they jump into their bunks because there's so much water if we're down below, and just brutal carbon fibre being pushed to the limit. So I always thought we were going hard, but he says these guys are just one level up again. Extraordinary.
Ed, last year I remember you saying that you'd probably be calling it quits and you'd have to make your mind up. When did you change your mind and what keeps you coming back?
Well, look, what I should do is tell you the truth on that one. We had a very long boozy lunch with our crew late in January of this year, and after several bottles of wine I said, well, what do you think, should we go again? And they said, oh yeah, why not, we may as well. So within about 5 minutes we all put up our hands, yes, 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 and got some more reds out and celebrated the next Hobart. So yeah, look, I don't know, it's never say never. I'm getting older, but look, it's still a fantastic race. It still just draws, as Matt says, it's drawn me to it all my life and my family, all of their life. So I don't know what's going to happen. While I'm relatively fit, I'll keep trying to do it, I suppose.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I give him a hard time about it quite regularly. He's from like a long generation. His dad was the Commodore at the CYCA back in the day, and his 2 brothers, his son. Oh, you can't keep them off the ocean.
True. Unfortunately true. Yeah.
Any more?
Saying with that, with so many father and son teams, is it always better to have the father and the son on separate boats?
Well, we were. Not by design, but that's how it worked out.
You know, it's funny, I was never closer to my son than the 2 Hobarts he did with me. We weren't father and son, we were just mates sailing on a boat, and we got on really well. I did my first 3 Hobarts with my old man, and again, I was never closer to him than over that 3-year period. So, yeah, it was great. It's just a real level of ocean racing. There's no stuff that happens on land goes away and you're just a crew. So, that's my view.